Tonight, on the world's most amazing videos, a base jumper crashes into a tower, then snags on a platform 30 stories up. Plus, a drag car erupts into a thundering comet of fire, trapping the terrified driver inside. Then, an angry bull spears a spectator, then unleashes a series of savage blows. And a drag boat flies out of control and explodes on impact. Later, a skier tries to shatter a record and breaks both his legs. These are the incredible true life stories of people who face their most desperate hour and live to tell about it. Everything you are about to see is real. Real people, real danger, real excitement. Get ready to experience the thrill of a lifetime. You are about to witness the world's most amazing videos.
Moscow, Russia. The Austin Kino Broadcast Tower. Daredevils dive 1,700 feet from the world's second tallest freestanding structure.
Yeah. Whoa.
Strong winds whip the platform. Sponsors consider suspending competition. But base jumping veteran Kristen Grubelneck has come all the way from Austria. She won't be denied. Kristen steels her nerves. And leaps. Her chute opens. But then, a blast of wind. Kristen tries to change direction. It's a crushing jolt. The Daredevil's chute remains open. But her nightmare is far from over. Her chute is caught on a platform 30 stories up. Kristen's not moving. She's unconscious. Watch again. The sudden gust hurls Kristen into the concrete tower. The impact is so violent, she's knocked out cold. Her lifeless body plunges another 300 feet before she's snagged. Kristen dangles precariously. A crewman rappels down to her. He fastens Kristen to his harness. If her chute tears, they'll both fall. Kristen is hoisted to the catwalk. The construction elevator is fired up to get her to the ground and a hospital. Luckily, she survives. The next day, competition resumes with a special event. Base jumpers from all over the world parachute together. a tribute to a brave woman. And an even more courageous rescue team. Aspen, Colorado. Skier Mike Wilson goes for the most outrageous jump of his life, a distance of 185 feet.
I wanted to do something that would kind of turn heads and make people say, wow, that was awesome. So I decided to hit a really big jump.
Mike soars off the ramp. But comes up short in a bone-crushing crash.
As soon as I got in the air, I knew I was done. There was no way I was gonna make it, and I just freaked out. To be honest, I don't even remember being in the air. I was so scared, I blacked out.
It's even worse than it looks. Mike's got a punctured lung, 2 broken legs, and a broken back.
Hitting that landing was like being in a car accident at 80 miles an hour without any airbags or any of the car to protect you.
The ski patrol finds Mike barely alive.
I couldn't breathe. Once I started coughing up blood, that's when I realized it was a serious injury.
He'll make it to the hospital in time to save his life. As for more death-defying jumps, Mike's learned a painful lesson.
I still take a lot of risks, still do some stuff that I probably shouldn't. But I think all in all, I'll be the first person to pull the plug if the jump's not exactly the way I want it. You know, I'm not hitting it.
The name of the game is speed. 0 to 200 in 5 seconds. 4-wheel rockets burn jet fuel in the high-stakes sport of drag racing. Queensland, Australia. Dragster Robin Judd is on the starting line at Willowbank Raceway. The light turns green. Robin's car explodes in a ball of orange.
I noticed on the right-hand side a flash of flame. You don't have a lot of vision inside the car, so for me to actually see the flame, I knew that it was a fairly major incident.
Vapors ignite under the hood. The engine explodes. Flaming fuel blasts out. The car is engulfed.
It's gone over the roof, it's gone down the back, it's gone everywhere.
Robin activates the internal fire extinguishers. The rolling furnace blazes another 1,000 feet before stopping. The door opens, but Robin can't get out.
I could feel the cab filling up with smoke, but I hadn't actually undone my harness at that particular point in time.
Crewmen douse the flames. One rips Robin from the death trap.
It all happened so quickly. It wasn't until I actually was dragged out of the car that I realised my breathing had been inhibited.
Robin's $250,000 car is a wreck. A small price to pay for escaping with his life.
To get out of it unscathed the way I did with just a bit of smoke in the lungs, I'm very thankful for.
Coming up, a drag boat flips and disintegrates into 1,000,000 pieces. Later, sparks fly as a fugitive makes a run on his rims, then opens fire on police. Plus, a motorcycle sidecar hits a bump, hurling 2 racers through the air. When the world's most amazing videos continues.
Zapote, Costa Rica. It's Christmas Day. Spectators crowd a bull ring for a bizarre and dangerous contest. The last man in the ring against the angry El Caballero wins the grand prize, $40. Hundreds are competing, but the bull sets his sights on one man, Timo Vega. El Caballero spears Timo's groin, flipping him into the air. His friends try to distract the bull. But the beast singles out Timo for more brutality. The helpless man is skewered and flipped like meat on a grill. The bull slams his lifeless body into a wall. El Caballero is finally drawn away. Amazingly, Timo's still conscious. He's rushed to the hospital with serious injuries. Timo loses out on the cash prize, but he leaves with the greatest Christmas gift of all, his life. Kansas City, Missouri. An armed felon tries to outrun police on the interstate.
Southbound 44, 10 miles per hour.
The law is ready to shut him down.
333 is trying to set up spikes on the bridge at Platte City. Do you copy that?
Up ahead, a trooper lays down spike strips to blow out the truck's tires. The driver plows into the trap, but keeps going.
He hit this side. He hit this side.
2 flat tires, and he's going strong. The tires are shredded.
50 miles per hour.
Sparks fly as steel rims gnaw the pavement. But he still has 2 good tires. So the troopers lay down more spikes. Got him. But it's far from over. The fugitive's got a gun. He fires. Just off camera, the brazen gunman stands defiantly in a field. Troopers order him to drop the weapon. He responds with more shots. Cops fire back. Police move in. They gave him plenty of chances to stop. He chose to end it the hard way. Chandler, Arizona. Top fuel hydro drag boats race at more than 200 miles an hour. And today, in a sport dominated by men, there's a woman in the field. But not for long. Michelle Updegraff loses control from the start. The bow of the speedboat catches too much air. Within seconds, it's destroyed. Amid the debris, the safety capsule bobs on the surface. Michelle's inside, but no one knows how badly she's hurt. Crew members race to get the capsule onto a boat. Incredibly, Michelle is conscious. She's injured, but survives. This was the first time Michelle ever raced a big boat. It could have been her last.
Up next, a raging inferno forces a desperate woman to jump for her life. But first, an oil slick turns a racetrack into a highway to hell. And later, a victory celebration turns into a terrifying brawl when angry fans storm the field. When the world's most amazing videos returns.
Batangas, Philippines. Championship round of the Pacific motorbike races. Chris Miller on bike number 1 is in second place. His throttle's wide open on the push for first. But then...
And he's smoking!
Smoke pours from his cycle. A broken hose spews oil across the track.
Obviously, oh, lovely! It's tipped him over the top left motorway, down the path and trying to avoid him. Other riders come squeaking through, there's water on the corner, and down goes another one. That's Scanchen.
Chris is thrown off. He rockets across the asphalt. Just as Matt Patterson hits the slick. Now Matt's in for a skin-ripping grind. Another racer goes down and torpedoes Matt's bike.
Well, that's Scanchen who has fallen as well.
Matt wheels his wreck off the track. But Chris Miller isn't moving. He's unconscious. He'll eventually come to. He went all out to win. But his hopes of victory went up in smoke. Marina del Rey, California. An early morning fire in an apartment complex. Upstairs, news cameraman Austin Racebrook awakens to a terrifying scene. Instinctively, he rolls his camera.
This could be the end of it. This could be me videotaping my own death. You never think things are going to happen to you until it does.
Austin makes an urgent call to his brother, Howard.
Now, come home quickly. Quick.
As I'm talking to him, I know he's in the building. I'm thinking, this is just a bad dream. The panic in his voice is what scared me more than anything.
Quick.
Austin's only escape is down 4 flights in a smoky stairwell.
I opened the apartment door. To the left of me, there was smoke and flames already coming down the hallway. I just prayed and I just ran.
That's the sound of his neighbor's screams. Austin makes it out just in time. He collapses to the ground, breathless.
I had had so much smoke in my lungs that my body shut down. I didn't have the energy to pick up the video camera.
His brother Howard arrives seconds later.
You okay? You okay?
He looked like death. He was as white as a sheet. He was so pale, it scared me.
Incredibly, Austin has only one request. Keep shooting.
My main concern was, let's get the rest of the story.
Howard videotapes as paramedics tend to his brother. Austin's covered countless fires in his career, but he never imagined he'd document his own harrowing brush with death.
I think he's extremely lucky to make 4 flights of stairs with blinding thick black smoke billowing out. I don't know how he did it. I have no idea how he did it.
Now, come home quickly! Quick!
Mexico City, Mexico. A Brazilian soccer squad has just defeated the Mexican home team. The Brazilians mocked their opponents by flapping their arms. The Mexican team answers with flying fists. The Brazilian goalie exchanges blows with the Mexican trainer. In seconds, it erupts into a full-scale brawl. Brazil is sorely outnumbered, not only by players and officials, but by enraged Mexican fans. The Brazilian captain makes a run for the locker room, but his teammates are forced to take refuge in the center of the field. The mob grows more angry. Police can't keep them back. Suddenly, a gang of thugs storms the field, thirsty for blood. The Brazilians run for their lives. The team is pelted with rocks and debris, but somehow makes it to safety. The hooligans celebrate. Their team failed to win the game, but they've succeeded in destroying their own stadium. Akari, Turkey. Pop star Aydin Aydin is making a music video. The script calls for a small avalanche, but nothing like this. Suddenly, tons of snow comes crashing down on Aydin and 15 others. There's nowhere to run. Not even the cameraman is safe. The deadly snow settles. Everyone who's not trapped begins digging frantically. With their bare hands. There's little time. 4 feet of snow can suffocate in minutes. And one buried person might not last that long. She's an elderly woman. Finally, she's found, alive. And so is pop star Aydin. Days later, he finishes his video. He vows to shoot the next one indoors.
Coming up, a cargo ship is sinking fast, forcing stranded sailors into savage waters. Then, a woman trapped on a windowsill makes a desperate leap. And a terrified horse is sinking in a deadly pit of mud. Can rescuers pull him out in time? When the world's most amazing videos continues.
Istanbul, Turkey. Fire tears through an apartment building, and a woman is trapped on the top floor. She's as far as she can go, hanging on by her fingertips. Now she's got one hand on the roof, one on the red-hot window frame. Smoke barrels into her face. Flames lick closer. And she can hold on no longer. It's a 5-story drop. But she has no choice. Luckily, firefighters inflate an airbag just in time. It saves the woman's life. It's a wonder she held on so long. But it brings a happy ending to a scene that appeared destined for tragedy. Tustin, California. A desperate rescue operation. A horse named Rio is trapped in thick mud and sinking. Rio's owner, Phil Sullivan, and firefighters are also stuck.
I was coming down a little an area that was real sandy, and I stepped off of the sand bank. And right when I stepped off the sand bank, now I had all 4 legs stuck out there.
Rio tries to make his way out. That causes him to sink even further. The men attach a rope and try to pull him out. If they pull too hard, it could lead to disaster.
He's a big animal, and having that much weight on, with his legs strapped like that, I was afraid he could break a leg, and then we'd have to put him down.
Phil and his pals are frantic. They try digging Rio out with their bare hands. But it's impossible to maneuver. The mud is like quicksand.
The conditions were such that we were also being absorbed by the ground itself. You try to move and you go deeper. The feeling of it is helplessness. The horse is helpless and you're helpless.
It's been more than 3 hours. They still can't free Rio.
We realized that we weren't getting anywhere. We weren't getting him any closer to the bank.
That's when Jerry Daniel devises a plan.
A large animal rescue service who brought out a kind of a sled, and we put the sled up to the back of the horse, and then after digging his legs out and tying ropes to him, we were able to flip him onto this sled, and then had a half a dozen guys ready at that point to pull him towards the bank.
The rescuers push and pull. Rio struggles with his last ounce of strength. The horse collapses.
The horse was exhausted and had just completely mud from head to toe, and he was just tired, really tired. What I was doing was driving him from behind to get that back end excited enough to motivate him to get the hell out of the area.
It takes the strength of 10 men to finally get Rio up.
Yeah, we're all going to get him to go. There you go.
After 8 hours, Rio is on solid ground. Bill is relieved. Nightmare is over.
Without the efforts of everybody that was there that night and all the hard work by everybody, I think he'd probably still be stuck out there in the mud.
The North Atlantic. A cargo ship is sinking. A dozen crewmen are still on board. The captain finally orders an evacuation, just as the main deck goes under. The crew manages to make it onto 2 tented life rafts. They flee the shipwreck. But the ocean currents are fierce. The water is freezing. If they're not rescued soon, they could drift from sight, or worse, fall into the Arctic waters. A Norwegian Navy vessel answers the distress call. The choppy ocean could capsize the life rafts at any moment. The stranded sailors won't last a minute in this icy sea. The Navy prepares a rapid rescue. They toss ropes to bring the rafts closer, then reel them in. One by one, the sailors scramble to safety. Even now, they must brace themselves against the wild water. The Navy ferries the survivors to shore. They catch a final glimpse of their cargo ship disappearing into the depths of the ocean. The crewmen are grateful they didn't go down with it.
Coming up, a blowtorch bandit is no match for a clerk's big stick. And a race car careens out of control. And a track worker has nowhere to run. Then, a motorcycle sidecar crashes, launching 2 racers down the track. As the world's most amazing videos returns.
Monterrey, Mexico. A big race at the Autodrome. The car takes a spill. It's par for the course in this extreme sport. But there's nothing typical about what happens next. The driver plows right into a stunned track worker. That worker is trying to take a shortcut across the track. He tries to flatten himself against the wall. It's too late. The driver isn't hurt, but the worker is. Badly. He has multiple fractures. It's painful proof that sometimes it's better to take the long way. Encinitas, California. A quiet night at a convenience store. A customer approaches the counter with a shopping basket. He takes something out and puts it behind his back. The clerk, Eric Piva, is stunned by what happens next.
Loaded. Loaded. Loaded one. With money. Crazy? Yeah, hang on.
This crook's picked the wrong store to rob.
And I said, load yourself. You know, what else you want to do?
Eric chooses to fight back with a baseball bat. But the thief has a weapon of his own. Fire. He's the notorious blowtorch bandit. He pulls a propane torch from behind his back and lights it. But that doesn't scare Eric.
If he had a gun, I'll probably, I'll surrender to him. As soon as he pulled out the blowtorch, I said, yeah, it's time for business. So I grabbed the bat and took care of business.
The blowtorch is no match for Eric and his bat. The bandit takes off running.
He didn't realize that I was going to turn around and beat the living hell out of him.
The robber gets away, empty-handed. Score one for the guy behind the counter.
Loaded.
Zippo for the guy with the oversized big. Taipei, Taiwan. The worst storm in a decade. A typhoon turns roads into rivers. Police believe this neighborhood has been evacuated. But as night falls, there's a cry for help. A face appears in a window. An elderly couple is desperate. The first floor of their house is under 4 feet of water. They're upstairs, trapped by their home security bars. Rescuers wade through the flooded front room, hoping to reach the couple in time. They've got them. The old man and woman are carried out to safety. Their possessions are gone, their home destroyed. But thanks to fire crews, their lives are saved. Perth, Australia. A sidecar motorcycle race. Brothers Glenn and Nathan O'Brien are 3-time champions.
He had total trust in me and I had total trust in him.
Glenn and Nathan charge at the outside. When suddenly, the brothers hit a pothole in the track at 100 miles an hour. Nathan is catapulted from the sidecar into the wall. Head first. Driver Glenn somersaults across the track and slams against the fence.
I'm lying down thinking to myself, wow, I'm still alive. I remember a guy coming up to me straight away, and I said, how's Nathan?
Ben, can we have the blue light and have the ambulance as well?
Nathan's not moving. Track officials huddle around looking for a sign of life. And then, he sits up.
I was on the track and the race promoter came up and he shook me 2 or 3 times. I wasn't in that much pain at all, quite surprised.
As Nathan gets oxygen, he tries to recall what went wrong.
I remember hearing the noise of the motor ploughing through the dirt and felt the flick of the bike starting to come up and then the silence, and that's my last memory.
Their quest for victory hit a bump in the road. But the brothers O'Brien have no intention of letting this slow them down.
It's sort of like dodging the bullet, you know? You can dwell on what could have happened, or you just dust yourself off and go, well, what's next?
are the amazing stories of people caught in life and death situations who made it out alive. Join us next time for more of the world's most amazing videos.